Hey, Austin, good morning.
Good morning, Dad. How are you?
I'm good. We're going to get a little sunshine in this time together with one of our guests, not only where he's located, but his heart is the same way. But let me introduce our guest today. Today, we're going to take our journey to Tallahassee, Florida, the home of the Florida State Seminoles, and inside the heart and mind of one of FSU's finest. His accolades speak for themselves. High school state champion, college national champion, two-time Grey Cup champion as a coach, All-American, high school and college Hall of Fame inductee. But this is a story about investing in others through the eyes of a player and the heart of a coach. My name is Ken Karcher, and I'll be your host. And alongside me today is my son, Austin Karcher. And we'd like to welcome Kez McCorvey as our guest to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Welcome, Kez.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. That was a great introduction. I'm trying to see who that was. Who was that you were talking about?
We were talking about you, Kez. That's for sure. Well, Kez, let's just jump right in, and I'm going to take you all the way back to just when you were just a little guy and growing up in the McCorvey home in Goshen, Mississippi. What would be one word to describe your childhood, Kez, and then tell us about your family?
Okay. I mean, one word. I don't know if I got one word to give you as far as my family, my growing up patterns that I had when I was in Mississippi. It was different. Now I can see that. I lived with my next to my grandparents growing up on a farm. And then it was very competitive. I had an older cousin. His name was Kurt. He was the Michael Jordan of the neighborhood as far as basketball is concerned. He made me hate basketball because he was so good at it and he loved to play it. And he was very competitive at everything he did. And so that helped to draw out some competitiveness in me as a young person. I came from kind of a broken home. My father and my mother never married, and then my father never necessarily spent time with me. I spent more time with my grandmother, his mother, and my aunts than I did with him. And so I don't know the reason behind that, but that was kind of stuff like that can be a defining part of your life. Early in my life, it was the defining part of my life and it kind of played its way out in how I saw myself a little bit, just, not feeling valued and not feeling valuable. And so that was kind of, if you ask me how I thought about myself, not feeling valued because of the circumstances.
Kez, did you have any brothers or sisters?
I did and do. I had an older sister. And then I had a little brother and a little sister. That we lived together, and then I had a stepsister. My father had two children, two stepsisters that I saw at points in time.
What role did your siblings have in your growth growing up?
When I was growing up, I spoke fast and I stuttered, so I had a lot of issues, right? And my sister would always finish my sentences, and I hated it. And then I had two younger siblings, a little sister and a little brother. And my brother, I loved my brother, and loved my little sister too as well. And I felt like I was I was the big brother. I really felt like a big brother, and I wanted to take my little brother on my wings, and help him in any kind of way. But my competitive nature sometimes pushed him away, and so. And so that is one of the things I probably could say about myself, is that competitive nature, desire to win, desire to be successful, kind of pushed him, pushed me away from him and pushed him away from me too, is because I was so competitive.
Now, you said that you had a great relationship with your grandmother. Is there a memorable conversation that maybe you had with her growing up?
Yeah, all the time. My grandmother, she was the kind of the matriarch of the family type of situation, but she was always talking. She was always involved. She was always making us do stuff. She was the lead disciplinarian in the family, and so she was the one that was, she was making us go to church. my grandmother made us go to church. We would have to go to church, and then back then, I'm in church and not know what I'm listening to, but she would make me sit in there, and she would sit next to her. And if you fell asleep, she would pinch you. But then you fell asleep too when you got home. I got a funny story. My grandmother she did me this way right here. We went to church. I actually fell asleep in church, and then when we got home, my cousins and family went outside and played, and that's what you wanted to do after church Sunday. Go outside and play and have fun. And my grandmother said, "Oh, hey, where you going?" I said, "I'm going to play." She said, No, you can't go play. I said, "Why not, Grandma?" She said, "Because you tired. Tired. You need to go to sleep." I said, "No, Grandma, I'm okay." I said, No, I saw you in church. You was tired. Go and get in bed." And I went back. I remember going back in the room in there, and my cousins were out the window, and they were playing and having a good time. And my cousin said, "Hey, Pep, why you can't come out?" And I said, "Because Grandmama said I'm tired and I need my rest." That was my grandmother. But she prayed for me, and she put me in position. And if she had the ability to get me saved at that time, she would have, because she was so trying, boy. She was putting me to get me, because I was getting in trouble.
Yeah.
My grandmother called it devilment. She said, "Pepe, my nickname was Pepe. Pepe always in devilment. He always in devilment." Is that a defined word, devilment? But that's what my grandmother called it, devilment. Pepe always in devilment. He always get in trouble.
How'd you get the nickname Pepe?
I have no idea. But that was my nickname. Pepe. My grandmother called me Pepe, and everybody else called me Pelt.
Okay.
I love it.
I don't know where it came from. I hear that name though. I know that they know that. I know that they're from Three Rivers, Mississippi.
So you don't hear it anywhere else, just there.
Nowhere else.
So do you have a favorite childhood memory that just sticks out as you look back on your childhood?
Yeah, I do. I had a coach. My first coach, his name was Eddie Trammell. And I remember, the whole process. I get a chance to tell this story a lot too. I'm gonna tell it to you because it's a good story. But getting in devilment, like my grandmother said, getting in trouble. And one day, my mother came home with a proposition that was made to her by her former classmates. So back then, the classes she was part of the segregated schools, and the schools got together, and a guy that she went to school with named Eddie Trammell would work with her at the shipyard. She was a welder at the shipyard, and a guy worked with her, and so he had a son that was 7 as well. I was 7, and so he asked my mother, Margaret, will you let me coach your son T-ball? And so she thought about it. She came home and spoke to my grandmother about it, and because she didn't want to let me play because I was hard-headed. And so my grandmother said, "Well, maybe let Pepe play some ball. Maybe it'll keep him out of devilment." And so they decided to let me play. And so Eddie, because my mother worked too as well, so Eddie's wife would come and pick us up to take to T-ball practice. And it really, the relationship I had with him, missing my father and him kind of standing in that gap, it really helped me to grow. I was having problems in school as well. And when he got there, he kind of made it good for me. He really stood in the gap for me. And he kind of brought me into that. And in Mississippi at the time, it was kind of a divided culture too as well. You didn't have much carryover and transition over from one side to the other. But baseball was different because me and another kid was the only black kids on the team. And Eddie helped us to kind of bridge the gaps between those relationships. And so I fell in love with baseball. I really fell in love with Eddie. Eddie was kind of like a father figure in my life. And I played on his team, and from the ages of 7 years old all the way until I got to where I was, 11. We moved when I was 11. It was probably one of the hardest thing was not moving from my parents, but moving from Eddie Trammell and playing on his baseball team. And I remember moving to the new place. We moved to a place called Goshen, Mississippi, when I was 11 years old, getting to a new school where I would meet a bunch of my future teammates, Terrell Buckley and all the other guys that were super good football players on my high school team, lived in that same neighborhood. But I remember moving to that neighborhood, And I remember going to the baseball park with my baseball glove and my baseball. Don't know anybody in the town. I'm at the baseball park and I'm watching this team on the field practice. And I'm sitting by the outside the gate watching them practice. And I see these trucks come in to the field and I recognize them. I was like, what? That can't be. This is too far away from Hurley to Gaucher for that to be who I think it is. And then this guy gets out of the truck and he has some cowboy boots on and he got a welder's cap on he had a red neck and like a half a cigarette in the bottom lip. And he gets over to the fence and he throws his arm on my shoulder and he yells to the coach. And apparently the coach is his cousin. And he yells to the coach and he says, I don't know what you guys are going to do, but Kez is on my team. And I still remember that as him validating me. I was moved to a new town, and you're by yourself. You don't have your cousin. You don't have anybody there. And then just when I get to town, my coach comes and he validates me, and I was so that moment still sticks with me when I think about Eddie Tramble and how he encouraged me and undergirded me and gave me the confidence to become a really good athlete and get some confidence. And so I still remember that. That's valuable to me. Just thinking about Eddie Tramble and how he believed in me. And it seemed like at the time it seemed like one of the first persons that believed in you as an athlete and as a person. Because I remember when I first started playing t-ball, I was terrible. I threw the ball over the dugout on the try. Guess what? He still picked me on his team, true to his word. And it's to my mama. He said I'm going to take care of your boy. Right? He picked me on his team after throwing the ball over the dugout. But I wanted to please him. I wanted him to see value in me. And so I tried my best, and then he did. He saw value in me, and so we had a great relationship. And my first coach.
That's awesome, Kez.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. What were some of your dreams and heroes growing up?
Well, I grew up with one of my heroes. His name was Curtis Curtis St. Cloud Black. And Curtis was the Michael Jordan of the neighborhood. And so he loved basketball and he was great at it. And so he was the best around. And so, I wanted to be like Kurt. I did. I wanted to be like Kurt. And he would just take no pity on me. Playing basketball, he just wouldn't. He would dominate me to the point where I just hated it. Then we would box. We had boxing gloves, and we would box, and he would just punch it. And I couldn't. He was so quick, and I couldn't get him. So he was 3 years older than me, right? So obviously, but I couldn't get him, and so I would try to lure him in by backing myself to a corner so he couldn't dance around me, and then he would hit me with the boxing glove, and my head would hit the brick wall. And so I think bad idea, but trying to figure out how to beat him. And so he was one of my main heroes. And then my family too, my grandfather, same thing. I had super respect for him. I don't think I ever disobeyed him. Now I disobeyed my grandmother, and she whooped me all the time. But my grandfather, I don't think I ever disobeyed him. If he said go left, I was left. He said go right, I was right. I was trying to stay out of his way so I could disobey. But if he said something, for some reason I had that much respect for him, right? And so he never said anything twice, right? He only said it once, and first time I was on it because I was just, my cousins told me stories about, some of the whoopings he would give, but I don't think they were true, but I believed them. So those were my heroes. As far as sports heroes, I don't know if I had many. Sports heroes, that were on TV. We didn't watch a whole lot of TV. We were from the country and we had 3 channels and I was too busy watching cartoons. And so that's kind of how I grew up.
What was your favorite cartoon, Kez?
My favorite cartoon at the time, I don't know. I watched all of them, but I'm trying to think of the good ones back then. But It was a bunch of good ones, man. We watched everything from Star Trek. We watched everything from the Little Rascals to all that kind
Hmm.
of good stuff that you don't see now. But
Yeah.
I loved watching those different things. And then on Saturday mornings, you had the different varieties. Early in the morning, 8 o'clock, guess what? You had the kiddie cartoons. And then by the time it got 9 o'clock, you got some good adventure cartoons and, Transformers and all that kind of stuff like that.
Oh
11
yeah.
o'clock,
Oh
you had the
yeah.
good ones. And then by 11:30, you had wrestling came on. Yeah, wrestling came on. And then probably after that, you probably had your last chance for kid. You had black belt theater. That was it.
What's Black Belt Theater?
Black belt theater was karate. It was kung fu. It was a kung fu
Oh.
channels. And so
Awesome.
that was our weekend, boy. You couldn't wait for Saturday morning. You up 8 o'clock in the morning. You had to endure the kiddie cartoons early in the morning. All that kind of stuff, and then you got some good stuff about 9 o'clock, and then your day was set. Then you were kicked out of the house, and you had to go outside and play.
Awesome.
It's fun to go back to our childhood and to think of those memories. And Austin, I really are grateful that you're willing to share that about Coach Trammell. That's a special moment in your life, and we appreciate that. Austin, why don't you jump to high school with Kez?
Yeah, so you said that you obviously went to Gaucher High School, which I live in Mobile now, so I'm like not too far from, the Pascagoula area and Gaucher, and I actually know some coaches who coach over there. I mean that they have some good football over there. So
I
tell
didn't.
us
I
about your
didn't.
high school career.
I didn't actually go to Gaucher High School.
Oh, you didn't?
No, because Gaucher High School and Pascagoula was one school,
Okay.
so we would have to get bussed over.
Okay.
We would get bussed over to Pascagoula High School, and then the schools were different back then. You had middle school was from 7th to 9th.
Okay.
7th, 8th, 9th was middle school, and then 10th grade was high school.
Okay.
And then Pascagoula at the time was the largest school in Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well,
so
tell us about your career and all the sports you played and about your time in high school.
yeah, so I was really a baseball player. I told you I grew up playing baseball and was really good at it, and I could throw. I could throw it hard, and I could hit it and run and feel the ball and everything like that. And I considered myself a baseball player. But when I got to high school, when I got to middle school, right, all my friends played football, they ran track, and they played basketball. And for me to have friends, which I wanted to have, you had to participate in those other sports. And so I get out there and in middle school and even going to high school, and I was probably maybe the fifth, sixth, seventh best player on the team. I mean, I had some really good in my neighborhood. I had some really good football players, really good basketball players on my high school team. On my high school team, my freshman year, we had 2 7-footers. We had two
Wow.
7-footers, yeah, and they both played college and pro foot basketball, and then I had a guy Dale Brown who played for Kentucky, Isaac Brown who played for a D1 school, and then the shooting forward played for a D1 school, and and we couldn't beat Chris Jackson, aka Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. We could not beat him to win the state champion, and he was probably maybe the second tallest guy on his team, and we couldn't beat him with 7-footers. That's how good he was. But we were my community. Very talented football players. A bunch of them, a bunch of great football players that I played with. Like I said, Terrell Bucker, Shane Matthews was my high school quarterback, and so I'm a 10th grader going into high school and trying to figure out what to do. I get on a football team, where they are great. They got a bunch of D1 football players on my team, and we are getting ready to win the state championship. And I'm on JV. I'm on the JV. I'm not playing. I'm with my buddies. We're on the JV, and we have the JV used to get the gray jerseys, and so we would have a song in practice called "The Gray Don't Play." The Gray don't play. Well, we don't play. The Gray we don't play. And
Oh,
so we were having a good time, playing JV football, hanging with my friends, having fun. And I remember we really didn't even know the high school, the varsity plays. I mean, in JV I think all the time we scored was on a halfback pass. To me, that was the only time we scored. We would run that every game, and we would score on a halfback pass, right? And so but we got in that season, and like I said, we're pretty good, and I think we got like 8 shutouts. Defense was they were nasty, and we were 10-0 going into the playoffs. Number 1 team in Mississippi, number 12 team in the nation, and we get to the playoffs and we win the first game, and then win the second game, and we're in the third round of the playoffs, and it was raining. I remember watching the game. Me and my friends over there by the Gatorade cooler over there drinking all the Gatorade. That's what we did. And we were down for the first time of the whole year. I mean, most teams didn't even score on us, but we were down. It's raining, and I remember watching the game, and one receiver got hurt. I'm like, "Whoa, well, okay, that's not good." Then, with about 4 minutes to go in the game, we're down. It's raining. Another receiver gets hurt. I'm like, man, we're in trouble. Who they gonna put in the game? The coach calls over and says, "Kez, you're in the game." Shocked, like what? I just got in trouble. Like what I do? What I do? You're in the game. Oh, what? Why? And the amazing thing happens. I get into the game. I get into the huddle. 4 minutes to go in the game. We're on our negative side of the field. I get into the huddle. Shane Matthews in the game, and he looks over at me when I get in the game, and he says, "Halfback pass to Kez on 1." And I look like, I'm thinking, I haven't played the whole year. But the first play I get called in the game, 4 minutes ago in the game, it's raining, we're down, halfback pass to Kez on 1. And I'm like shocked. And then so I go out of my spot. I go out there. I see the DB out there. I go out there. I pretend like I'm putting down to block him. He's not buying it. He's not buying it. So I take off and run down the field. Right. I look up in the air and all I see is rain. And then I see this brown piece of rain. And I dive for it. And I catch it 47 yards down the field. I jump up. I go to the sideline. My friends jump on me and slap my head and everything. I'm sitting on the sideline and they say, "Kez, you still in the game? Get in the game." All right, Shane comes in there and throws a touchdown pass to our all-state tight end. We win the game. The next week I start and Shane tells me, every play, because I didn't know the plays, what to do. "Kez, you got to come back. Kez, you're blocking. Kez, you got to, whatever route I got." He'd call the play and he would tell me what to do. And we go on to win the state championship. And then from that point on, I am on the map. I'm on the map, right? You go into that situation, you don't know what happened, right? But you know what? Now the assumption is Kez McCorvey is one of the guys, And so I come back that next year, that junior year, and I really underachieve. Now everybody on campus knows you now. You got a little bit of notoriety. You're supposed to be one of the guys. You just won the state championship, all that kind of stuff like that. I don't know what that means, but all I know is now people like me, right? Now people respect me, all right? For some reason, because I had some success on the field. And that's been a pattern for me. Baseball is the same way. When I played t-ball and baseball, it was an opportunity for me to gain value through me playing ball. It was kind of like it was kind of pay to play, right? Or you gain value as you performance, and that's kind of what the rhythm of my life was going in. Where if I play good or I make some plays, guess what? I started getting value. But that year was tough. My junior year was tough. I didn't have much success. Shane Matthews had gone off to college, so we wasn't throwing the ball very well. And we just didn't have success, and I didn't have success either. And then I started to kind of make poor decisions. And I stopped running track. I was a track athlete. And the year before, I went to the state in the hurdles. I was a hurdler. I played baseball, and I stopped playing baseball that year too. And that same year, I quit playing basketball. So I'm going to play another sport. And for some reason, and then I remember and really making bad decisions, that I think that early success really, it really did a number on me. Sometimes you think, man, success is good, but sometimes success can be bad. And I think that really did a number on me and caused me to make bad decisions. And so at the end of the year, after having a bad season, and our bad season for us was 11-1. We went 11-1, had a bad season. You losing the playoffs. I know. And we go losing the playoffs, and I didn't really do that good at all. I really did terrible. I started the whole year, but didn't make any plays or didn't do anything worth significant. And going to spring football, I was really in great shape. Great shape. I was dominant. I feel like I was dominating spring football, and then I had a tragedy happen. And I think I tell this story a lot too as well. How I got to Florida State, I had a tragedy happen. My oldest sister, she was a hemophiliac, and so that means that she was a free bleeder. Her blood didn't clot very easily, and so every time she got cut or had a bruise or something like that where she bled, it was not an easy thing. She had to go to the hospital, and it was a hard thing to get her to where she could not bleed. But she actually went to a dentist, and she actually she bled to death, passed. And I remember after a practice, and I had some great practices. And after a practice, my mother used to pick me up from school, but that day she didn't. My cousins came, and I was trying to decipher, okay, what is going on here? Why is this different? And then I got the information that my sister had passed away. Very, very disappointing, broken, in those moments too, you're young, you don't know how to process the loss. And I blamed everybody. I was mad at everybody, angry, trying to process, your sister's loss. And so that was a struggle. But in that same moment, in the same moments, you kind of have, I think God kind of opens the door for other things, to happen. And so something did happen. I remember being in a class, a Spanish class actually, and the teacher came into class and he had a letter. It wasn't really a letter. It was a camp brochure, and he brought it into class and he said, "I have a letter for Kez McCorvey from Florida State University," in front of my peers. And so when he said that, all my classmates clapped, and I got up and I was very proud, and I got it was really just a brochure. It was a camp, come to camp, give me $395. And, it didn't mean anything, but in that moment, it felt like it meant something. It felt like it had value. Now I'm in the lowest part of my life, really. I just lost my sister, oldest sister. And now, you get something that happens to you that kind of opens the door for you. And I feel like I saw something that wasn't there. I saw opportunity. And so I got that letter, and everybody's patting me on the back. And then that same day we had the testing, the football testing, and you go and you get tested, in the bench press, squats, and broad jump and vertical jump and 40-yard dash. And I went out and I got tested, and I really hadn't done anything, and so I got tested in the 40, and I was embarrassed with what I ran. I ran a 4.9, but what happened is that 4.9 shook me up enough to let me know that, kids, if you don't do something right now, you're going to miss this opportunity. That wasn't really an opportunity. You're going to miss out on this opportunity that has presented itself. And so I made some changes in my life. I stopped hanging out with my friends, running around, doing stuff that we weren't supposed to be doing. I stopped missing weightlifting, and I started doing whatever it took. I was at home, and I would be between commercials, I was squat jumping. I had dumbbells, went and bought some dumbbells, squat jumping and high kneeing in my room. I worked out so much to where my mother, she got tired of washing my sweaty, nasty clothes. And so I would be in my room in my drawers. That's how much I wanted. But by the end of the summer, I'm in the best shape of my life. In the summer, I'm in the best shape of my life. And so my mother, she was more than happy to send me with that $395 to camp. And, really long story short, I go to camp and they got the number one receiver in the nation, Andre Hastings, there. And and so I've known about him. And so I had him as a target, and I go to camp to show them that I could play football. I go there and I run my 40. I run a 4.5 in the 40, right? Different than a 4.9. And I get to that football field and I tear up everybody. I mean, I ripped up everybody, and then everybody's, clamoring around, hey, who's this guy here? And at the end of it, they offered me a scholarship Kez McCorvey, you got a scholarship if you want it. I go back home to Mississippi to my regular team, and I kind of underachieve again. We didn't throw the ball very well. You measured against your best years when Shane was there. We could throw the ball all over the field, and then without Shane, we couldn't throw the ball very good at all, and so didn't have a whole lot of success. But we won a bunch of games. We won, I think, 8 games or whatnot, and then Florida State was true to their word. They came and they gave me that scholarship. But when I took it, really, when I got it, I really felt like, you know what, I didn't deserve it. I would look at the signing sheet of all the guys that come and sign in with me, and they had all these All-Americans. They had All-American this, All-State this guy. You know, the years before, they had the number 1 receiver in the nation from, you know, the guy that broke the punt return record for, you know, the nation. They had the number 1 receiver who had the record for the most receptions and most yards, and they had the 100-meter champion, Florida, 10-2 and 100. They had another guy who was 6'4", you know, 200-pounder, run 4.4. They had all these guys there, and then they had me. And then they had me, and I didn't see myself as valuable. I didn't see myself as, you know, stacking up to what these other guys had. And so I remember getting there and really trying to hide. I'm really trying to hide so that Coach Bowden doesn't know that I snuck in, you know, and I'm sitting there, and I remember sitting in the atrium, and one of the, you know, I'm sure they read all the stuff the press puts out there, but one of the guys, a DB named Corey Fuller, he kind of calls me out. He says, you know, Kez McCorvey, you that receiver that tried out for the team. You that received that tried out for the team. And as soon as he said that set me off. You know, I said, I don't know if I'm gonna make this team. I don't know if I'm gonna play a whole lot, but I'm gonna destroy you every day. Every day you're gonna know that this guy that tried out for the team is better than you. And so that's kind of how I got to, I mean, out of high school, man. I don't know if I played my best ball in high school. I really don't. I look back over my career and I look back over those high school times, and I really, you know, kind of embarrassed about, you know, the level of effort that I gave into, the intensity I played. You know, I don't think I gave my best. And that's something I'm not proud of. You know, you always got the good stories you tell when you won the game, but you don't never tell the stories when you didn't give your best effort. And that's something that, you know, embarrasses me, and I'm not proud of not not putting my best effort on the field. And so that's my career.
Let's use that to transition to Florida State, because you know, even though you feel that in your heart, you're now at Florida State. Take us inside Florida State football. I mean, obviously people around the country see Florida State on TV for years. I can remember playing when I was in Notre Dame, playing FSU. Bobby Bowden brought FSU up to Notre Dame for the first time. But take us inside FSU football and tell us what makes it special.
My goodness. Back then, I have to talk about back then because I don't know if we did great there. You know, and I'm proud of the guys. I mean, you go on the field and you put the effort out there, you put your helmet on, you play. Man, you gotta live with the consequences, and you gotta be proud of what you put out there. But when I got there, you know, it was a standard. You know, I mean, and I could feel it through the players. You know, the standard is not felt through the coaches. The standard is felt through the players. Now, Coach Bowden was great. I thought, you know, I mean, he had natural respect from myself. You know, you come in and you meet this guy, you're trying to figure out, okay, who is he? And then what I saw when I first met him is, I'm used to coaches, the coaches coaching, even the head coach. You wondering, okay, the head coach coaches somebody, but Coach Bowden didn't do that, right? He would be over to the side. He had his notepad, and he would just watch, and he would take notes all day. That's what he did. And so my first thought was, he don't do nothing. You do nothing. What you do, Coach Bowden? You come give the speech. But I soon learned that that's not true, because my receiver coach would come and he would give me, you know, hey, Kez, you know, you're relaxing after every time you catch the ball. You need to make sure you tuck the ball in and keep your intensity the whole play. And he'd come in that same note right here. And then one day he just came in. He said, Kez, if I get another one of these notes from Coach Bowden about your ball security, I'm gonna run you to the feet. Your feet fall off. So I understood soon. I soon understood that Coach Bowden was definitely involved with the whole coaching process. He just coached from afar, and he coached through his coaches. And so that's kind of how I saw it. And funny thing about it though is this right here is you don't know what you're missing until you leave it. So I didn't know I was in a good position. I just know these jokers worked me hard. And I know Mickey Andrews, who recruited me, was always encouraging me. And I got encouraged when I got there. I didn't, I don't know if I think I was afraid of Coach Bowden. And like I said earlier, I didn't want him to send me home. I didn't. You come in and you just, how you feel about yourself is projected out to everybody around you. And that's how I felt about myself. I didn't feel valuable, from your circumstances that you grew up in. I didn't feel valuable. And that projected on my play a little bit in my integration at Florida State. And so I kind of hid from Coach Bowden for a bunch of years. I really did. I kind of hid and to make sure that, he didn't kick me off the team or. And so, I had really good coaches that encouraged me. Mickey Andrews encouraged me every day. He was my recruiter. And so he would, every day if I made a play, he would say, Kez, you're looking really good. You're doing good, Kez. And then my receiver coach, John Eason, and I don't know if he told this to everybody, but he told this to me. He said, Kez, you might be the best receiver to ever come to Florida State. And he said it enough to me to where I started to believe it. And so, and so that was the culture. It was a great culture, honestly. I can look back now and see that I had guys that loved me. Our strength coach, David Hallinger, loved him. But he was one of the first men in my life that said, hey, Kez, I love you. And now when he said it to me, I looked at him crazy like, dude, hey, what does that mean? Because I didn't have that growing up, just didn't have that growing up in my family. We just didn't say it like that, right? I knew my family loved me, right? But, he would come out and burp, Kez, I love you. Okay, I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know what spot do I put that in? I don't know. And so it was a great environment. I had really good friends. I made some really good friends up there too. My roommate, Omar Ellison, and all my friend classmates and stuff. And so and we lived in a dorm. We all lived together. So you never were alone. You never was by yourself. And so you just had a tight knit group over there. And then I had guys that I felt that cared about me. And so I started to feel comfortable. And then I actually met my wife as a freshman too, as well. So I had the whole kit. I had the whole thing all together. God was putting it all together. And so we dated as freshmen, and we dated then. Then we got married as I was a senior. But that was the environment at Florida State, and it was highly competitive, and then it was highly demanding. The level of detail was highly demanding over there. The competitive level was highly demanding. The work, you would never believe that Coach Bowden is, intense as he is, and the demands that he had put on us. I mean, mat drills was crazy, but I didn't want to go home, and I didn't want to go back to the shipyard, which my mother made the shipyard sound like it was the worst thing in the whole world. And so I didn't want to do that. So I endured the hard work and the heat of Tallahassee. Tallahassee hotter than every place in the whole world. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but Tallahassee, we don't get no breeze from the water because it's sparking from the water, and that heat just sits right on top of you. It just sits right on top of you, and I would get heat exhaustion and IVs and stuff like that all the time, and so it was very difficult. But you have the expectation of being successful. When we got to the field, guess what? There's no game that I played in that I felt like we weren't supposed to win. And if we did lose, right? If we did lose, my thought was if we had some more time, we can win this game. It was never, we lost. I don't think I've ever felt that way at Florida State, where we got no chance. And we played some big games, the Miamis, the Wild Rights, the Choke Dokes, the games of the century, the national championship games, and every one of those games, I felt like we were supposed to win those games, no doubt. And so that's kind of the program. That's kind of what we had at Florida State. And I'll say this right here. I want to, because it's a lot of good stories. I can tell them, if you want me to, I can tell them all. But, when I got to Florida State, it took me a couple of years for me to get to the point where I had enough confidence to be myself. I don't think I became a ball player until my sophomore year. My sophomore year, I got to the point where, you know what, I'm not worried about making a mistake. I'm not concerned about messing it up or dropping the ball and getting fired. Because at first I was just concerned about, I just wanted to be a starter. Coach would let me be a starter. You know what? That's what I want right there. But after a while of not making plays, right, you get tired of just being a starter. You want something else. You want to be a contributor. You want to make a difference. And my sophomore year is when I felt like I got to the point to where, my coach wasn't the primary person to motivate me to do my very best. It used to be where your coach was the motivator. That year, I became the primary motivator. I was more hard on myself than my coach was. And so I wasn't concerned about making a mistake so that he fired me. I was more concerned about, what, I want to be the very best I can. So I'm critiquing myself. I'm hard on myself. And then my coach got to the point where he bought into that. And so he coached me very little on game day because I was tough on myself. I had expectations of myself to be the very best. And then my game kind of rose the next year. I lead the team in yards and receptions, and we won a national championship. And then going to my senior year, we have a good season as well, and I lead the team and get a chance to become an All-American and all that kind of good stuff. But that's kind of the career.
Kez, what you earlier mentioned, Bobby Bowden, which obviously is a household name to sports people. What impact or influence did he have on your career? Or was there a memorable conversation or story you have with Coach Bowden specifically?
You know what? Let me say this right here. Because when I was a player, I actually ran from him and still, I think I still had some issues that I was dealing with and God was working me through. But most of my significant conversations happened after I became a Christian. And I'll get into that story later too as well. But most of my significant conversations and time I spent with Coach Bowden was after I became a Christian. And so I can kind of tell you, I can kind of push us forward here. Can I tell you one great story?
Sure.
This is one of my favorite stories here about Florida State. So, at Florida State, we didn't lose many games. If I look at my little plaque up there, it says 54-5-1. 54
wow.
5 losses.
Some good years.
Yeah. And so we didn't. So we in those 5 losses, they weren't blowouts. They were wide right, wide left. Last second losses. There was no blowouts in those games. We were in there.
Kez, I think you labeled every one of them. That means they were like historic games. So you must have had a heck of a career. Jeez.
Yeah. So it was not a situation we blew. But my senior year, we're playing the University of Florida, right? A rivalry game. But the thing is, we usually take care of Florida every year. It's not like, we own them. And so we're out there playing the game, and it's my senior year, and I want to make it's my last. You're trying to make a statement. You're trying to do something. You're cocky, you're arrogant. You're trying to, and we go out there and we are getting our butts kicked. We're getting it kicked, and nobody on their senior year wants to go and be the team that, hey man, you guys let Florida beat you or let your rival beat you. No, you don't want to do that. And so, but this happening. Their defensive line is killing our offensive line. Sorry, guys, but we are getting we're not keeping pace. I think we kicked the field goal. They scored. We punted the ball. They scored. We did something else. They scored. At halftime, it's like 24-3, and I'm like, wow. After all those games where you've not been blown out, you've not been in position to quit, right? And now you're presented with this. And that year was tough for me. I had separated my shoulder, and I remember going into halftime, thinking to myself, what are we gonna do? Mark Richt comes out, and he kind of gives us a ray of hope. Hey, let's go back to speeding the tempo up and go to some no huddle shotgun stuff that we did the year before. Danny didn't do it as well as Charlie did, so we kind of went away from it, went more to the eye. But in that game, we decided to go back to it, and we moved the ball a little bit. It kind of gave us a little spark, but then we made some mistakes, and then I think we end up fumbling the ball. Ward done fumbles it, and then they get it, and then they move it down, and then they score. It's going into the fourth quarter. Like in the fourth quarter, they score, and now I am thoroughly confused. I have a dilemma here, and so now I'm thinking about myself a little bit. I start to get selfish, right? And I don't think I've ever quit a game. I don't think I ever turned it off, but I almost thought about. I considered it. I remember thinking about my shoulder. I said, man, my shoulder's hurting too as well. And this game's almost out of reach right here. Should I shut this thing down and get ready for the bowl game and get ready for this, for the combine and stuff like that? I was really processing that in my mind. And I remember watching the ball go through the field, through the goalpost as they were kicking the extra point, as they scored 31-3, right? I remember watching that ball go through the goalpost and thinking those thoughts. Should I turn this thing off? Should I pull back? And I remember walking back down from the defensive side of the ball, and I walked past two of my teammates, Devin Bush, who played safety, and Derek Brooks, who played linebacker. And I overheard their conversation. As I was walking past, I overheard their conversation, and all I heard was Derek Brooks say, "Let's make it respectable. Let's make it respectable." All I heard, he said it one time, and I overheard it as I was walking by, and I said to myself, well, my teammates ain't gonna quit. I ain't gonna quit either. And I had a renewed sense of, I'm gonna pour it out. And I remember walking down with the scowl on my eyebrow, like, the mad scowl, just, let's go. And I hear some of the linemen down there, and I hear this, one of our biggest linemen, his name was Forrest Conley, he called him Big Foe. And I remember seeing him just kind of, weld his hands, and we were breaking apart. It was 31-3. We're about to self-destruct over there on the sideline. And I remember going up to him, and I grabbed him by the chest. Lucky he was sitting down because he's 6'9". And I grabbed him by the chest. Big Bo, stop messing around and keep playing. And he looked at me like it was crazy. Like, should I kill you or should I? And so, but then we got on that field. And we went out there and moved the ball all the way down the field, right? I remember a play. Mark Rick says this right here. He said, he always asked me, he said, Kez, what's your most important play at Florida State? And I would say the Georgia Tech, the touchdown, this other play over here or that other play. And he says, Kez, nuh-uh. It's that fourth down play. It's 4th and 10 in the red zone. And he said, that's the most important play. It was 4th and 10. I think I got hurt on first down. Out of the game, E.J. Green comes in the game. They run the exact same play, a little curl route, 10 yards deep. DB's sitting on him, and then it's ended up being 4th down. And Mark calls the same play. He calls it Y option. It's really Kez get open. And so I'm thinking to myself, this guy just sit on the same play that just ran right before me. How am I going to get this guy to move off this spot so I can get this first down? And so I kind of lean him like I come off the ball hard, and I kind of lean him like I'm going to the corner, and he don't move. I'm like, crap. I turn around, and the ball's in the air, and I just catch that thing on my neck, and then by the length of my eyebrow, we get the first down. Oh. And then the next play, we run trap, touchdown, Zach Crockett. And then the next drive, the defense holds him. All right, we get the ball, we move it down, boom, touchdown again, right? Then the defense holds them again. We get the ball back again, touchdown. We go on to score 28 unanswered points to have the greatest comeback in NCAA history. And I used to tell that story. I used to think about, what, man, that's why you don't quit. That's why you don't quit. That was the theme of that story. Until I called one of my teammates. I called Devin Bush, and I was going to call him and encourage him, and because it was his birthday. And I said, let me call Devin Bush and encourage him on his birthday. Old Catfish, that was his nickname. Old Catfish. I mean, call him up and encourage him and pick on him too a little bit. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to call him and I'm going to tell him this story. I bet he'd never heard this story before. I'm going to tell him this story. And I told him the exact same story I just told you guys. But then when I got done, he said, Kez, I remember that. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, but let me tell you what happened before that. I'm like, what? What you mean? What happened before that? Because I thought the story was about me. I had 11 catches for 144 yards. I mean, I'm tearing them up, right? So I thought it was about me, right? A typical receiver. And so, but he said, no, okay, let me tell you what happened before that. He said, when they kicked that field goal, I was so embarrassed that my head went down. He said, when I picked my head up, I looked in the stands. He said, the first person I saw was my mama. He said, my mama and I locked eyes. He said, when she locked eyes with me, she pointed her finger up to the sky as to say, Devin, lift your head up. Get your head up. And he said, when he saw his mama, he became motivated. He said he wasn't going to quit. And so he called his friend, his best friend and his roommate, before he got to the sideline, which is Derek, who was Derek Brooks. And he said, he told Derek about what he just said with his mama. And Derek's response was, let's make it responsible. I mean, let's make it respectable. And at the same time, he was saying that this make it respectable, Kez McCorvey was walking right by, all right, to overhear that. And we go down to talk to Big Bo, and then we go to the field and we score 28 unanswered points to have the greatest comeback in NCAA history. And I thought about that. I said, my goodness, I thought that story was about me. Really, that story is nothing about me. It's really about the encouragement of a mother. It's an encouragement, period. A mother that loves her son so much that she didn't want to see her son be dejected in the game. And so she pointed her finger up to the sky to say, Devin, keep your head up. And that motivated him. And then he motivated his teammate. And his teammate unknowingly motivated me to now go motivate the rest of our team to go out and have the greatest comeback. And that became the story behind that story. And I love that story to death.
That's an awesome story. And thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Let's transition, since you talked about here you are finishing up your senior year, and walk us now as you get ready to go into the National Football League, the process there. And if you would tie in, where are you spiritually as you're transitioning from college to the pros?
Yeah, I'm spiritually, I'm as lost as a nickel in the in my backyard. Actually, I am. I'm trying to create value, and that's been a pattern my whole life. Really, just using sports to create value. Right, when I played good, guess what? I felt valuable. When I didn't play good, I felt unvaluable. And so you kind of going down the wrong road. Really, I'm making football an idol for me. And that was no different going into the pros too as well. I get there and I feel like I'm one of the best receivers in the nation, right? But I have some difficulties. I end up having IT band syndrome the day of my combine workout, so I don't run fast. I don't run what I feel like I can run. But the Detroit Lions were committed to drafting me. And the general manager name was Ron Hughes. And I remember talking to him at the combine, and he said, I'm gonna draft you. I said, I don't want to be drafted by you guys. He said, I don't care what you want. I'm gonna draft you anyway. I said, okay, And then on draft day, I'm sitting in my house my grandmother's house, and we having a little party, and the Detroit Lions call me and say, hey, we're gonna draft you in the 5th round. I believed I was better than that, but they're going to draft me in the 5th round. I get a call from the head football coach. The head football coach says, hey, I hope you make our team. I'm like, what? You make our team? Because apparently the head coach did not want me. He didn't want me, but the general manager wanted me. And then I remember, leaving there and going to Detroit. And when I got there, I felt like I tore it up. And I remember the head coach made a statement like, you know what, he's sneaky fast, kind of a backhanded comment. And in my first couple of years there, first 2 years there, I didn't get a chance to play a whole lot. I felt like I really felt like, and I was a slot, right? But I won't say it's, you got the politics of, but money talks.
Yes.
So we had Herman Moore, we had Brett Perry, we had Anthony Carter was there too as well, and then we had Johnny Morton. They just drafted in the 1st round, and And so I was kind of stuck in the back of that thing. Still felt like I should have been playing some slide, but you the least, you the lowest man on the totem pole, and so I didn't get a chance until my third year. My third year, they make a coaching change, and some other guys leave, and so my third year, I'm finally got an opportunity to be the third receiver. They got Herman Moore, Johnny Morton, and then they got me. I'm the third receiver. But then I do so well. I do so well to where they make me the starter. So opposite Herman Moore, the receiver coach says, "Kez, you know what? I think you earned the X position over there opposite Herman." And finally I've gotten a chance to obtain the things that you want to obtain in football. And before the first preseason game, I get an injury. I'm running an out route, try to stay in bounds, slide on a piece of wet dirt. You hit my foot on the ground on some dry dirt, and it flips over, and I land on my ankle, my foot. And it's a little bone inside my foot called an orbicular. I end up tearing a ligament tearing that ligament around that bone, and I couldn't push off. If you're a receiver, you can't push off on on your best leg, I guess. It makes it very difficult. And so I was struggling at that time, because now the thing that I thought that was the thing that made me valuable, I couldn't utilize anymore. I mean, because I felt like my ability to move, my quickness, my agility, my, elusiveness and body language was the thing I had, but I didn't have that anymore. And then I couldn't play. I mean, they kept me on the team because I did so well to where they didn't cut me, but I couldn't go out and improve my value. And I remember sitting in the locker room and waiting for my opportunity to play. And I remember we played the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the head coach, Bobby Ross, calls me into the office and he says, "McCorvey, we need a special teams guy." And I say to him, and I'm in a vulnerable position. I can't play. I can't do anything. It's not a thing you can do. He says, "We need a special teams guy." And I said, "Well, I don't play special teams, coach." He said, "Exactly. But we need your spot." And so he says, "We're going to cut you. And, if you make it through waivers, we'll bring you back on Monday." All I heard was you fired. And I had not been fired before. And it really did a number on me. I mean, first time I ever cried, I cried, and, all that kind of stuff. And it was just really tough. And what it did, it shook me enough to where I didn't look at football the same. And I think it kind of freed me. So I go back into the locker room the next week. They bring me back onto the team, and I go back into the locker room and but I'm in the locker room, I'm different. I'm looking at the locker room different. And actually what happens is I notice one of my teammates in there being a Christian in a NFL locker room, and he was being different. He had two things that were different about him. First of all, he was a Christian, and so he operated different, and then he was from California. That's a double whammy of being different. And so I was just watching him read his Bible. I was watching him interact, and from across the room, he didn't know I was watching him, but I was watching him and saying, I knew what he was. I said, "Man, he's one of them Christians." And I would sit there and I would just watch him and just, see was he for real, And then I got to the point where I said, "You know what, this guy is for real." And then he got something I don't got. He got peace. The ups and downs of NFL football, and he is at peace in this situation, and I'm all over the place. I need what he got. So I remember one of the games, the Minnesota game, going to him, going to a chapel service. So I didn't go to I never went to a chapel service. Never went to a chapel service. Don't know what they do in chapel service. Didn't know what they did in chapel service at all. But I went to a chapel service, and then I don't know if I even heard what the chaplain said. I don't think I heard what the chaplain said. My plan was to wait till after chapel service to stop Glenn Milburn and to talk to him. And so I did. At the end of chapel service, I blocked the door and I said, "Hey, dude, I've been watching you, and I want what you got. I think I want to become a Christian." Right before the game, he said, "Well, come to my house on our off night." I think our off night was Tuesday, and we'll have a meeting. And so I go to his house on that Tuesday night, and that night I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. He had a friend that came and preached the gospel, and I became a Christian that night, the night after the Minnesota game.
Wow.
Awesome.
So that's kind of my path, to
Thank you.
Christian belief.
That's awesome. So, after your time in Detroit, where did you go from there?
Well, this is kind of where we start to intersect with people we know. Well, after the next year, next year I'm still injured and I still can't do all the things I could do before, and so I end up going to camp, and then in Detroit lets me go, and then I go home for a little bit and I coach a little bit. I coach at a school called Lincoln High School here in Tallahassee for the first time. My wife made me get out of the house. You can't stay around here. Get out of here and go do something. Go to Florida State. Jeff Bowden says, "Hey, kids, won't you go help my team, my old high school?" And I did. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed coaching and teaching for the first time. That's my first opportunity to teach. And then I got an opportunity to go play football in NFL Europe. And so I get a call from somebody about NFL Europe, and my name's in the draft over there, and I get my chance to be my first opportunity to be a first round pick. I get drafted by the Rhein Fire, first round pick to play receiver in NFL Europe, and so at that time I was trying to show them that you're healthy and you can play, but I go to the Rhein Fire, and we started having practices in Orlando and all that kind of good stuff, and I felt like I played and practiced really well. I took about 20,000 pills so I could practice to get my foot to work right, and even in NFL Europe I struggled with that. My foot, I just I couldn't. I was still hurting and wasn't able to play at my best level, but I still played some decent ball.
Well, I'll say this, before we even got on, Kez, my dad said, still the best post corner runner he's ever coached. So whatever you did before you had, I can't imagine what you ran before your foot was hurting. So,
yeah. And so I know, and I enjoyed it. When I went to NFL Europe, I still was struggling with trying to get back the dream of playing NFL football. And so I look back now and I thought to myself, man, I should have brought my family over here so they can enjoy the environment in NFL Europe, but I didn't. And so it was kind of in my mind still work. I wasn't enjoying myself. I was working. I was trying to get back what I lost. And so I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as I could have. But I'm gonna say this right here. Your dad. He ran. We had those practices, man. We had like 100,000 plays, man. No, but I made some really lifelong friends, Diallo Burke and a bunch of the guys too as well. I really enjoyed myself. He let me play a little quarterback too, in practice at least. He let me play too as well, and I actually enjoyed myself. I just you always again, I never wanted to go and not be able to get my best.
Yeah,
and I was struggling that I wasn't able to be the ball player that I thought I could be. And I was a young Christian at the time too as well. So a young Christian, but I got around a group of guys that were really Christian as well. I had a Christian coach, all right, and then I had guys around me that were Christians as well. So it started for me to create a good environment of having Christian influence in my life that was helping me to grow. And then I was starting to transition too as well. My heart was God was freeing my heart from the idol of football at that same time. And so we get there and we don't win the championship. Oh, we don't win. And then
I remember being in that that bar, we were sitting there watching those games.
And Kleineman from the Frankfurt Galaxy kicks a field goal, or else we go into the
He
playoffs.
missed like 3 that game.
No, I do think I think we were the better team. I thought we had gelled and and got to the point to where we were the better team. I think we made some quarterback changes too as well that helped us out, but for some reason we weren't able to take advantage of it. But that's how it goes, and so for me transitioning from NFL to Europe, I ended up getting hurt at the end of the season too as well, and then going to I think the clinic that we had in Alabama. And then my agent calls me and says, Kez, I got a couple options for you. I think Seattle or the Panthers. And so I choose to go to the Panthers and go to camp there. And again, when I get there, I feel like you say it, I feel like I'm the best guy here. They have a bunch of good receivers there, but I feel like I'm better. But I was still injured and couldn't be consistent, and like most of my teammates thought, kids, when you get in your apartment, when you gonna get your place. I said, dude, I'm looking at these numbers here, and I'm not gonna be here. They got this guy in this slot right here. They gonna be here. They got this guy here. He's returning punts right here. They got this guy. They just signed him a contract, gave him a signing bonus right here. And then I had Diallo with me as well, and I said that I can't be on practice squad. I said I'm not going to be here. I can already see the numbers and how it was going down. And then again, I had the same injury in my foot. The best thing that happened at Carolina was this right here. I had a doctor that came in there. He was a foot specialist. Never took an X-ray. Never, just really looked at my foot and said, "Hey, you got a torn navicular." Okay.
Wow.
You got a torn navicular. And so after they cut me, I went home and I had surgery. And so that was one of the best things that happened there. They were able to discern and see where the issue was with my foot. And so I went home and I had surgery, had a big bone removed out my foot, and then they which took the pressure off of that to allow my little thing to go back in my foot in the proper place. And then I felt like myself. I remember this almost like a couple of weeks afterwards, I went out and worked out, and I go to the basketball gym. I could jump, and I jumped and dunked the basketball, and I'm like, I haven't been able to do that in a couple of years, and I just felt explosive, but nobody wanted to sign me. And I'm sitting there waiting, I'm fighting off the idea that I'm injured prone or whatever, but I'm impatient, and somebody from Canada calls me up and says, Kez, you need to get some film. You need to get some film and show me that you can play. And so he hypes me up, and so I signed with Canada, and I go up to Canada and I really enjoyed myself in Canada. It was the first time I was appreciative of being able to play, appreciative of being full speed, being able to do the things you're able to do. And so I was just very appreciative of, being in a place where I could play football. I go up there and I make the All-Star team, and I lead the league in touchdowns. And I felt like I could have scored on every play. Basically, I felt like nobody could cover me, and had a great season. And I was trying to get back into the NFL, but those contracts in Canada are very sneaky, and so they wouldn't let me go. And so I come back the next year, and I think maybe the third or fourth game of the year, I tear my ACL. Mm. And then, I just got to the point where I was kind of probably shouldn't make a decision as soon as you get injured, but I did, and I decided it was time for me to transition, move on.
Kez, let's talk about that transition. Take us from here you are leaving the CFL. You're, I think, coming back from Edmonton. Let's talk a little bit now of life after football, the transition you're making, some of the thought process you have of deciding what to do and how you get from there to where you even are now today.
Okay, guys, can I do this real quick? I'm going to need some help because I need my wife to go get my power cord for my computer because I am running out of power.
Yeah, that's
go ahead.
Absolutely.
Sugar, will you please go grab my power cord for me? It's in my bag. She's giving me the look. Yeah. So I'm gonna see if my lovely assistant over here can assist.
We're going to talk about her next, tell her so. She may want to come to the room after we're done with this segment.
She's not going. She don't want to be on camera. She don't want to be on camera. She doesn't.
No, but she needs to hear how you're going to love on her. So,
Yes. Thank you.
You got no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So my lovely wife there. So. Okay.
So you're coming back from Edmonton, and in your mind you're getting ready to transition to life after football. So take us on that journey, Kez.
Yeah. So actually, that date that I retired from, I decided to retire from football, and so. But me and my wife, we had a great time in Canada, loved it, enjoyed it, finally got a chance to play full speed in Canada. But then just decided to move on. And I remember just not feeling anxiety about the decision. I really didn't. I felt at peace about the decision. Don't know why. I don't know if I had great counsel either, but I made the decision that it's time for me to move on. And so I remember coming back to Tallahassee. We got in Tallahassee. We got to Tallahassee September 11, 2001.
Oh,
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, the exact same day. So we get off the plane, get into our house, and I'm turning the TV on, and we just got off a plane, and I'm seeing a plane just flew into this building. What movie is this? And I turn the try to change the channels, and it's on every channel. What is going on? Okay, September 11th. And so that happens. And then I remember, but even before that trip, I remember praying to God. I said, God, I've been playing football all my life. I don't know what to do. Help me. And so I get home, and I think that's after the 9/11 deal. I get home, we go to church, and one of my soon-to-be partners was in church, and he kind of catches my eyes and chases me around the church, and we decide to start a training business called Titus Sports Academy. And so I ended up running a business and training athletes for that bunch of years. And so I did that for I think from 2001 all the way to 2009. So I trained athletes. I got a chance to train a bunch of athletes, a bunch of the guys that are, the Ernest Sims and Antonio Cromarties and even the Tim Tebows. I got a chance to do speed training and teach them how to do the power clean and teach them how to jump and run and all that kind of stuff like that. We did that all across Florida and South Georgia and many other places too as well. And so that's what I was doing. And my goal was really, I love coaching, but I had young kids and I didn't want to spend as much time away from them. But in actuality, I was doing this. I still was doing that. I still was spending time because you had a new business and you're trying to provide for them and in this new business. So you end up spending more time than you want to anyway away from them. And so that was kind of my plan that didn't work out like the way I thought it would work out. But yeah, that's what I did. Transitioning out of football, it was tough, and I think I had opportunities to go back. I remember, a couple of coaches called me about coming back and trying out. But by that time, I think I lost my fire and of wanting to play or feeling like I needed to play.
So what was the process from Titus and being a trainer into wanting to really just coach? Did you have an influence that made you go that route, or do you felt like the Spirit put you there? Or?
Yeah, well, this is kind of what happened. Is I was using my football skill sets to help create relationships. So I would go and if a coach needed me to help them with the receivers, I would go over there and do it. And I remember going to one of the schools here locally and I helped them with his receivers. And he said to me, at the end of that session, he said, Kez, I don't know if it's true or not at the time, but it scared me. He said, Kez, if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. If you don't use the abilities of God and things that God's given you, you'll lose it. And when he said that, that scared me. Because before that, I kind of told myself, I'm not going to teach anybody nothing that I know. I I was kind of bitter. I was angry. I was, I left the game, but I was still bitter about not having the opportunities to show how good a football player I was. And I was going to hold back this gift that God gave me. And then this coach, comes and he says, kids, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And when he said that, I just got scared, and I said, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to. And so what happens is I started coaching, but I started coaching with another guy, a guy named Darren Slack. Darren Slack was a quarterback coach.
Yes.
He had camps all around the country. And so I ended up going down to Georgia. Georgia had a game down in Orlando. So me and my wife and family went down to Orlando to talk to Mark. Mark was coaching there at the time. And then so at that practice, Mark said, hey, kids, you need to meet this guy over here, Darren Slack. And so we got to talking, and our philosophies about, some of the different principles about coaching the positions were similar. And so we started coaching together. And so we started doing coaching clinics and stuff. He would do them all across the country. And so I would travel with him a little bit to go and start doing those coaching clinics and really fell in love with because that's who I am. I'm a detailed guy. If you ask me what some of my spiritual gifts is, insight, is understanding. I take things apart and put it back together again. And so that's what I feel like I'm good at. I'm good at dissecting it, understanding why it doesn't work, and putting it back together in the right way. And so we had a similar philosophy. And so I enjoyed that piece of teaching guys step by step how to develop these skill sets, how to put your foot in the ground, how to load up, how to change direction, how to be elusive, all that kind of stuff like that, how to run the certain routes. I loved it. And so that kind of started to open my heart back up about coaching. And then a couple of years later, me and my wife had a conversation. I had a conversation about, maybe wanting to coach. Also, I wanted to make some money too. Also, I wanted to make some money. So I'm thinking, okay, let me stop playing with my left hand and play with use the things that God's given me to be able to help me make some money with my family. And so he started to get involved with coaching. The first year was tough. I got a couple job opportunities to coach in college, but it was a hard transition because the pay was not very, when you first start out in college, the pay is not very good.
Yeah.
And so it was hard for me to be able to, having 4 kids at the time now, to say, hey, I'm going to support my family making $35,000 a year, for my family. That was tough. So I took a high school head football coaching job back in Tallahassee, and so I took that job, and it was I'm all excited about coaching and the whole process of coaching, but then guess what you do? You realize that coaching is more than just receiver coaching. Receiver is not the only position on the football field as you get to coaching, right? And so now you gotta increase your knowledge of the full game. And now, I always considered myself a very knowledgeable, well-rounded guy. So I could, even when I played receiver, I knew all the blocking protections. Okay, how many guys we got over here? Where are we hot? How they rotate? I knew. That's me. I'm that type of guy, But to understand, okay, the blocking scheme, how we run zone schemes, okay, what's the scheme best for my players, right? We're not very big, okay. Now, how can I get an advantage in the run game to be able to run the ball successfully, okay? How can I protect, right? All the different things, right there. Defense, okay, what's the best defense for my guy, my style of, all that kind of stuff. You got to now at least have enough knowledge to know how to even pick a guy to help you, because if you don't know that stuff, you don't know if a guy's telling you anything or whatever. And so now it's time for me to now increase my knowledge. So I think I read a gazillion books, watched a gazillion videos, consumed all the coaching stuff to try to get myself up to par on coaching. And then I had to, and then we go out there and we play ball, right? And then you start taking a couple of whoopings because your schedule is not, and the school president tells you at the beginning of the year, he tells you, kids, you think we need to change our schedule and kind of reduce it? No, for what? Man, I'm gonna win all these games. I'm gonna, my ego. My ego So after a year of getting whooped up pretty good, we didn't. We lost games close, but you know, it was tough on my ego. Just kids. And so I spent 2 years as a high school head football coach at a school, McClay. And the first year we played tough, but we just were outmatched physically. My goodness, if you ever had the wing tee put on you and you got you on the back end of a 15 play, or 12-minute drive, you, let us go. Let us go. Let the net go, please. So you'll know what it'll like. And so that's why, and then have the option run on you when they sit there and they're reading. They call it no huddle option plays on you when they're reading the front and calling it from the sideline. And no matter what you do, they're gonna have the last call on you. You're like, God, man, help me.
Let the clock run, please.
Yes, let the clock run. We get the ball one time in the half. Man, just let them score. Just let them score.
And so I've been there.
You learn quick that what football is. You're not as much of an expert as you think you are. And then become the point where you're trying to motivate your guys to do those type of things too. And it's more than that. But then you fall in love with your players. Fall in love with your players to where you want to see the best from them. And you get a chance to know what their weaknesses are and their strengths are, and you're trying to call it out. And then being a Christian coach at a school, and it was kind of a struggle. It wasn't a struggle because I was being myself, but it was kind of a struggle because I was in a school that wasn't necessarily allowed. And so you're trying to figure out, how do I put this in context here and be who I am in this environment, and then being a new coach. So that was the transition into coaching for me, which was humbling. It was really good because I had kids that went to the same school to us, where it was a private school, and then we got a chance to spend a lot of family time in there, and I got a chance to get back to Tallahassee and coach in a town where I had success, and then you don't have success, and so now everybody telling you you're a terrible coach. And I'm like, oh no, my name is being trying to get the mud over here. Oh, I'm going 2-8, and
oh
my goodness.
Let me go somewhere else, another state, to do this thing.
Yes, I gotta leave my, And so all those different things have come to your mind as you're trying to build a name in coaching, but I still have the desire to coach at a higher level too as well. But I also have a family too. So you're trying to balance all those different things in your heart that you have passion. I'm competitive. I want to win, right? I love winning, but also, I got like I said, I got young kids that need me, and I want to be present with them too. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. And so 2 years in McClay, and they say, hey, kids, it's time to move on. We can't have you going 2-8 over here, ruining our good name over here. And so I delved into college football coaching. A friend of mine who's a coach, he convinced me that, kids, if you want to coach college football, you need to go over here. And so I make the commitment to go. So I go and do something that I wasn't willing to do 2 years before that, is I go and I take a job where I don't make a whole lot. I think I made not a whole lot at all. I live in a dorm, and I'm coaching football at Bethel University in McKenzie, Tennessee, a small NAI school in McKenzie, Tennessee. And I don't know how I took that job. Some kind of way, I think I went there for an interview, and I think the only reason I took the job is because he didn't let me get home before he offered me the job. He offered me the job right there in the office, and it's like, okay, what do I say? Okay. But if he'd let me get back home, I probably said, nah, I'm good, man. And so I accepted the job, and I actually learned a lot. I had my own room. I was I was a receiver coach. I had 26 receivers. I was the pass game coordinator. I was the strength coach. So I had 3 jobs, and so I lived, breathed, ate football all the time. My family was in Florida, and they would come up on the weekend. So my wife would drive up to McKenzie, Tennessee, every weekend to come and hang out with me in McKenzie, Tennessee. But we practiced on the weekend. So we had meetings in the morning, 5:00 and 5:30 in the morning. We had meetings, team meetings, position meetings, and then we had breakfast. And then I went right to the weight room. I had weight room from 8:00 in the morning all the way to 1:00. I had weight room. And then at the weight room, we had our position meetings again, or our team, our coaches meetings, and our position meetings, and then we went right to practice. Then after practice, we had dinner, and then we had a staff meeting, and the staff meetings would last, all night, watching the film, getting ready for the next day or whatnot, and then you're about done probably 12:00 at night, and then rinse and repeat, and so I got the whole gambit of football in 1 year, McKenzie, Tennessee. And we have success, we have success. We become number 3 in the nation in passing. And, we end up winning the conference for the first time in, so many years or whatnot, have a lot of success. And then the head coach gets a job opportunity to go and get another job. And so he takes the job. And so we're all contemplating what we're going to do. And it just so happened for me, an opportunity comes around for me to coach in Canada. Yeah, for the Canadian Toronto Argonauts. And so that was a challenge getting the job. But then, I played there obviously too as well. But then I get there and I recall people asking me, "Hey man, you sure you can coach in Canada?" And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's a ball, right? They're catching the ball, right? They're running routes. I think I got this. And I go and I feel like I have really good success in Canada. We go there and I have some really good receivers to work with and new staff. Scott Milanovich up there and a bunch of other good guys and guys that will become my friends. And so we ended up winning the Grey Cup, Grey Cup up there in Canada. I ended up having 3 receivers that are all-star caliber. One of the guys was the MVP of the league, and then the other 2 guys 1,000-yard receivers. And so they end up having a really great year there. But at the end of the year, the circumstances, I become the odd man out. And I thought, man, hold on, I feel like I did a great job. I become the odd man out. I was the last one to get in. And then, I think one of the other teams had a coaching change. I think Mark Trestman went to the Chicago Bears. So that team, those coaches had to go play some places. And the coach I was under, he coached for Mark Trestman, so those guys were, and so he ended up bringing some of those guys over with him to the staff, and I was kind of the odd man out in that situation, and so just getting introduced to the college, not the college, but the football business, and all that kind of stuff, and then I ended up coming home, and me and my wife ended up moving to South Florida. My wife starts, she's from Miami. She's from that area too as well. So she gets a chance to be closer to her family. And then again, we have some loss. Her father passes away. But then we decide to stay in South Florida. So I coached there a year at a school, because in South Florida, you can't get a job as an assistant in South Florida. You can only get a job as a head coach. Because I couldn't get a job as an assistant. But I think I got a couple of head coaching opportunities, which I didn't want. I didn't want to be a head coach, really. I wanted to because I thought I would transition to another spot quickly, but it didn't happen. And so I became a head coach at a school over there called Northeast High School. And I was the head coach. One of my former classmates at Florida State was the principal over there, and he asked me to come over there and do that. And so it was quite interesting coaching in South Florida. The process of coaching in South Florida. So when I get on campus, I said, well, where's my feeder school at? He said, Kez, it don't work like that down in South Florida. You got to go get you some players. And so he calls the he calls the principals at the middle schools and sets up me to have a visit on the campuses of the middle schools. And then he tells me about, you need to go into the Pop Warner games over there and visit the Pop Warner games. And so I got a chance to go full high school recruiting. I know it sounds like it should be illegal. It probably was, but that's the way to do it. And so I go and meet with the players at some of the middle schools, and we are full out recruiting middle school players to come on our high school team, and then go out to the Pop Warner games. And I'm sitting down there with my guy who knows all the Pop Warner teams, and he would point out the guys and where they're going. He said, "Hey, kid, you can't, you don't worry about him because he's going to St. Thomas. He's going to Chaminade. He's going to Manhattan." Yeah, but this guy right here, he's free. He's good right here, and there's his parents right there. And so I would go and talk to their parents and give my recruiting spiel and tell them that, hey, if you wear your jersey, you can come on our sideline of our field. And before the game, I had recruiting visits where the guys would come over and I would walk them through our Northeast High School weight room and locker room to show off the locker room and stuff. And then the beginning of that year, I had 44 new freshman football players on my team. And then we have a struggle year. We played a bunch of good teams. Miramar, who was really good at the time. St. Thomas, the Bosa, I think it was Joey. Bosa was destroying my backfield and all my players' hands off, and and so it was highly competitive football down there. And
so you go back to Canada, don't you, after that?
Yeah, and then after that year, I ended up going back to Canada. So I go to Edmonton. So the defensive staff, and the offensive line coach left Toronto and went to Edmonton. The defensive coordinator became the head coach, Chris Jones, and so I went to Edmonton, Alberta, back in Canada again, and we go there. The first year we have a good season, and I feel like I do well as well. And then in the second year we win the Grey Cup again. Yeah, I got another funny story. We end up playing this team, Calgary, the Calgary Stampeders. And Calgary, that's our rivals. Edmonton and Calgary, that's the rival. And I heard before the season that, we hadn't beat Calgary in 7 years. And so I thought, that's amazing. You haven't beat a team in 7 years. But it becomes even more amazing when you think about this right here. Certain teams in CFL, you play twice. If they're on the other side, you play them twice a year. Other teams you play that are in your own division, you play them 3 times. But it's one team that you play 4 times a year, possibly even 5. It's one team that you play 4 times a year, and that team for us is Calgary. So we had to beat Calgary in 7 years, playing them 4 times a year.
Oh my
I'm like, golly, what in the world? That can't be possible. Because when I played for Edmonton, I feel like we beat Calgary all the time. We beat Calgary all the time. For some reason, they could not beat Calgary. And I thought, that's impossible. But the first year, guess what our record was against Calgary? 0-5. They beat us 5 times that one year. I was like, wow. And we had the second best record in the league. I mean, we beat everybody else, but we could not beat Calgary. Oh my goodness. I was just like, wow, this is impossible. But then the next year we get our stuff together and we go out and we beat Calgary 4 times. They beat us once. We beat them 4 times to go on and win the Grey Cup championship. And so
Kez, I want to lead into, because I think, and I know you had another stop, you went to Middle Tennessee, I think, after that. But, I think for our listeners, they're listening to all these great football stories and they're hearing, well, you went from here to here to here. But what they miss out on is what happens to the family in the midst of all of this, and your wife, who we've mentioned quickly. So I'd like you to transition. Okay, all this stuff you're going through, tell us now about your family, your wife, your kids, and then even tie in how you end up with FCA.
Yeah. You know what? It is tough too. I told my wife, I kind of sold her on the dream, right? Sugar, I need to stop playing with my left hand. And if I go and coach and I didn't even mention this right here, that Ken Karcher offered me a coaching job too, and I did not accept it. I did not accept it at the time, but that's not a here nor there. But I was I sold my wife on, that this is what we needed to do. We need to, to further ourselves and put ourselves in a position, family wise, to kind of stabilize ourselves, because we just stopped coaching. We just stopped playing football, right? So you go from making a little bit of football money to now having to transition to, a regular lifestyle, and that was tough. And so I had to, trying to lead, and I mentioned to my wife that, what, maybe we need to go ahead and go to this coaching thing. It's gonna be hard at first, but then down the road there'll be some benefit from us to be able to do this thing here. And so like I said earlier, I was trying to run from that because first of all, I was hurt a little bit, and I was bitter because things didn't happen the way I wanted them to happen in my own career. And then the thing is, just knowing the coaching and football lifestyle is tough. It's tough on the family. But I said, you know what, let's do it. And so you get your wife to buy into that thing too, and make the sacrifices, and have me be away and almost be a single parent. And it was very difficult, but my goal was to try to bridge that gap as fast as possible to get us in a position to where, we can financially stabilize and legitimize, this coaching opportunity situation. And so it was very difficult. It was very difficult in our marriage too, as well. Just, being away and challenging. So, as I was, and that kind of led me to my decision to go to Middle Tennessee. I mean, I really was very comfortable in the CFL in Canada, but I didn't want to be so far away from our families, but then the Middle Tennessee opportunity opened up, and it kind of opened the door for me to now kind of stabilize our family. So we end up taking it, but it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out, because every person has, you got people have different personalities, right? And they may not have the same philosophy of how they coach than you coach. And so I think when I was that middle, I just didn't have that same philosophy of how you coach and whatnot, and so it was a struggle for me. But it ended up being a good struggle. Sometimes God takes you through things to be able to allow you to grow through those things. And for me, at Middle Tennessee, it was an opportunity for me to grow. I was challenged in my faith. I was challenged in my purpose of why I was doing it. Sometimes you think that is the reason you do things, but really God challenged me on that, because it got to the point where it was not a good environment for me to be there and coach, and so I was just challenged with it. And so at the end of that year, I'm sorry, I'm talking about my wife. And so my wife, she's been a trooper the whole time. She believed in me and believed in the things that were going. I'd already, she'd married a football player, so she knew kind of what was involved in that. And so she'd been a football wife for a while too as well. And so she was used to making those sacrifices too as well. But I can sense she was trying to protect herself a little bit too as well, because it become hard. It wasn't easy. It wasn't NFL easy anymore. It was NAIA hard now. So it became a strain on our family with my kids too as well. My daughter was becoming a older. She's in high school and she's graduated from high school to college too as well. And she didn't have a father there as much as she would like. And then I had younger sons too as well that didn't have access to their father, in those times too as well, because I was off. And so it just made it hard to, parent and help my wife in those parenting opportunities. And I think it causes scars that you have in your marriage too, and your relationship, that you have to, if you're lucky that you can come back and start addressing those things. And we were lucky to be able to do that, to start coming back and God allows us to heal from those mistakes that you make, and And I think some of the mistakes I made were just, and really they to me, I look at it now and I can see where they came from my earlier life of not feeling valued. And so you're trying to chase value. And I try to chase value in coaching. And those things come back to bite you because you don't put the value in the right place. And so that was really my trip to, my wife. She's been a champion in this whole process, and I just, you look back and think to yourself, okay, I wish I could have been a better husband, had better leadership for her, provided a better vision for her, proper vision, proper platform for her. But she, God is faithful and God is merciful, and God was working through her on that same situation that she was working through me too as well. And so that's kind of where we were with that.
Okay, as before we get the legacy and wrap it up, tell us what you're doing today with FCA.
Okay, good. And I can tell you how I got to FCA. So I'm at Middle Tennessee, and then I end up, really feel like, it's time for me to transition. I go to the Senior Bowl, and the same guy in my life, the general manager for the Detroit Lions, is now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's actually with the Buffalo Bills. And so I'm talking to him about possibly getting in with the front office. Don't want to be in the front office. Don't want to be in scouting, but want to be in coaching. Having a hard time doing that. So I end up calling a friend of mine because he is a super encourager. A guy named Craig Snyder. And so I call Craig Snyder. I'm in Mobile. I call him up and say, Craig, man, I'm crying on his shoulder. Craig, I'm having a hard time, making a decision on, what I should do here, And then Craig, he has a mind of his own. And so he's not even listening to
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he's not even listening to the conversation. He said, Kez, what about FCA? And in my mind, I'm thinking, no, that's not even what we're talking about, man. I'm talking about football here. And Craig just, well, okay. And he said, well, do you want me to call somebody? And at the time, if I'd have had more courage, I would have said, no, don't call anybody. I said, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. And so Craig doesn't waste a moment. He calls up the director of FCA over Georgia and Florida. And next thing I know, I'm on the phone with him for 45 minutes, having a conversation with him in the lobby with my friend and Mean Joe Green on the other side over there, thinking about trying to how to, should I take this opportunity or not? And I'm on the phone with him, and I talked to him for a while. He says, Kez, what about, why don't you just go to Tallahassee and meet with my director over there for South Georgia, North Florida? Why don't you go meet with him? And I say, okay. I still want Craig to be my friend, so I'm gonna follow through. I'm gonna follow through with his deal. But he's taxing me with these, this thing here. So I drive to Tallahassee, and while I'm driving to Tallahassee, I rationalize that, you know what, God, I know what you're doing. You want me to go and help my team, Florida State. I should go over there to Florida State and talk to Jimbo about being on his staff and helping my team. God, you just set me up, God. And so I go to Florida State and I go into the office. There's not a soul in the office. Not a soul. They're all on vacation. And so I'm like, I got to go to this stupid meeting. And so I go to the meeting. And I'm sitting in there, and as they're talking, they're not even talking about me being in the job. I feel like I'm having a Holy Spirit conversation, and I'm saying, I'm really feel like, okay, this is the thing. This is intriguing. This is pretty good. And I'm waiting for God to say no, because I felt like God was saying no to the Buffalo opportunity. And I was frustrated, so I called Craig. But then I don't hear God saying no to this opportunity. I'm like, hold on a second, God, you're supposed to be saying no. Why are you not saying no to this thing here? Because I don't want to do this. Because in my mind, I had thoughts that, I'm going to have to go back to school, or I'm going to be in the corner with one of those signs that says, repent or go to hell. I got to be in the corner doing that right there. We talked about ministry. I didn't know. My mind was all over the place. And so I'm sitting in that room, and I feel like the Holy Spirit said, Kez, why wouldn't you do this if I asked you? And I'm trying to figure out, okay, now how do I answer this question? This is not Okay, this has some significant meaning to this question right here, and I'm trying to figure out how to slip past it. If I can just maneuver my way up under this question without committing blasphemy. How can I do that without committing blasphemy? Okay, and I realized what I was doing. I realized that my heart was in the right place. I realized my heart was not in the right place, and that's what I realized. I said, I'm trying to figure out how to disobey God. And not that, and it's not that, and I don't know if it was God speaking or not, but my heart was trying to get out of it because I want to do my own thing. And I finally surrendered. God, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And so I'm driving home and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to tell my wife that, about this ministry opportunity. How am I going to present it to her? I've already sold her on this coaching thing, but now I'm going to present this ministry thing to her as an alternate to our plan. And so get to Middle Tennessee, talk to my wife. She gives me the look, and then we talk about transitioning. And then I talk to the AD over at the school about letting me continue to pay me until a certain time so I can go and raise my funds to be on staff with FCA. And it took about maybe 2 weeks, and he comes back to me. He says, Kez, we'll do it. We'll pay you until June. So I had a deadline of June to go and raise my funds. So I go down to Tallahassee and my family and everybody to raise funds to be on staff with FCA full time. And so that happens. June 1st, I'm fully funded to be on staff with FCA. And I start my career in full-time ministry, not knowing what that looked like. And when I get there, my supervisor says, Kez, if you want to, you can coach. I said, what, really? He said, yes, you can coach. And it just so happened one of my friends, he comes to me, he says, Kez, you know what, I got somebody that needs to meet you. I was like, who do I need to meet? He says, an AD and a booster club president for a school. And I'm like, not me. I'm not coaching. And then for some kind of way, I end up in a meeting with those guys, and some kind of way, I end up getting a job that I didn't want. And now I'm the head football coach for John Paul II High School. Mm-hmm. And we come out to the first practice, and we have 17 players, and I'm thinking to myself, what have I got myself into? What is this? And we end up going from 17 players to 25 players over the course of a season. It becomes one of the best coaching experiences I think I've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
It did. I go in with the mindset. Now I've learned a lot as far as football is concerned. I've learned a lot as far as, psychology and how to coach the heart of a young person. Mm. I've learned a lot more, and I've learned what I would like it to look like. And so I'm in there. I'm trying to draw out and the relationships into each one of my guys. Right. And I remember one day trying to, find something that's fun. So we're gonna play dodgeball. And so I got all my seniors are pegging all the freshmen in the face. I'm like, no, guys, what are you talking about? And so at the beginning of the seasons, I had a struggle trying to get my guys to buy into what I was trying to sell. So we were going to handle the spiritual piece of it. We were going to make sure that we had great football. But I was trying to bring the fun back to football too as well, have them enjoy football. So I remember, and it was tough just trying to get these guys to buy in. They were used to, hard love and all this kind of stuff like that, and which is good too as well. But I mean, they just, and so I remember one day having to come to practice late because I got a real job now. I work for FCA, and I remember getting to practice late, and I tell my assistant coach, "Hey, start at special teams first. When I get there, we'll go into offense and defense, and we'll kind of get practice." I get there, and I see the guys out there playing flag football, having a ball, giggling, laughing, having a ball. And I go and I don't bother with them. I just go sit by the shed over there and I watch them. And my assistant coach sees me. He comes over to me. He says, "Coach, I didn't know what to do, so I I thought we just played a little ball. And I looked at him and I said, and we better do this every day too. So for the rest of the year, our warm up for practice was flag football. Linemen be the quarterback, guys running around, they out there giggling, laughing. And before that, I was having a problem with guys coming to practice late. They had legitimate excuses. Miss Johnson had a test for me or such and such. After that, after we started doing flag football, I never had a guy show up late. They wouldn't dare miss flag football before a game. Matter of fact, they had so much fun to where their friends on the campus, guys on the baseball team, they would come out and watch us, guys on the basketball team, their eight of their friends came and joined the team. So we went from 17 players to 25 players.
Wow.
And, and I could see the difference of the amount of, buy-in. At first, it was hard for me to get those guys to buy into what we were doing. But after that, for some reason, it opened their hearts. And now everything I said, it went right to their heart, and I can get them to do it. We can run complex stuff. We can do all kinds of stuff because the guys trust it. And we end up going 9-2, winning the conference for the first time in school history, led this whole region in passing and offense and turnovers and defense and all that kind of stuff. And then we end up making our first trip into the playoffs. First time ever John Paul II ever made it to the playoffs. Had a great year. The team that whipped us real good in the preseason, the number one team in our conference. They had like a couple of D1 football players on our team and whatnot. Defensive lineman that was committed to UCF threw my center into the tailback, and then my center went over to the sideline and cried. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, we're in trouble. Beginning of the year. That same team, we come back and we beat them in the championship game to win the conference championship game. It was just really just an awesome feeling of seeing, the Bible talks about seek first the kingdom and its righteousness and all the other things we add to you. Seeing us focus on the things that are most important, the heart, and then seeing the production from that heart into the lives of these kids. It happened. It didn't happen football first. It happened to the heart first, and then that heart change affected the football play, and the seeing that was great. So that was me coaching. I got a chance to coach my son too as well at another school and win the state championship with him in high school. That was great to spend that time with my son and win a championship with my son. And then I've been doing FCA, and that's been one of the most wonderful things in my life. I came into it with a skewed mindset of what does ministry look like. I knew I was supposed to be in ministry, but I didn't have a viewpoint of what ministry looked like. I had my own skewed vision. I thought I was supposed to be in the corner with a sign that said, and all due respect to those guys. Those guys are fantastic, but I didn't want to do that, right? and God didn't. That's not what God had for me. God, allowed me to be in sports ministry, and I got a chance to see where God had those things that I had done in my life. The being in the training facilities, playing football, Florida State, being a coach right here, how that thing all kind of combined and opened the door for me to be in ministry and then walk into a locker room and speak to a coach and speak to the athletes or have an open door to be able to present the gospel. And for me, it was my first time for being able to do that. I have been a athlete Christian. Athlete Christian is different. Athlete Christian, you go there, people are always nice to you, and they come and they ask you to speak, and you say your little speech right here, and you move on, and you don't, you're not involved. And now, guess what? I'm on the ground. I'm in the grassroots now. I'm down in the dirt with guys that they're going through situations and issues, and you're building ministry, and you opening doors for ministry for other people, and you're doing ministry too as well. I had 30 schools. When I first started. And I would run around to each school, trying to do ministry in those schools. And then I soon found out that, kids, you cannot do this alone. You can't do this alone. You need some help, right? You need to figure out how to build some infrastructure and get other people involved. And so we started getting other people involved. I started going to some of the churches and getting their youth pastors to come in and fall upon the FCA and then get certified so they can now go into the schools, and you start doing ministry. And so God started using some of my organizational skills that I got through football and sports to now help organize some of these other things right here. And so I started to see God put the puzzle pieces together. And it was like, wow, I didn't know that was there. right? I didn't know that was in me, and so I just started, through FCA, started to see a lot of these things start to happen, right? And I got a chance to preach the gospel on a consistent basis, and going to places where they say, hey man, they ain't had a FCA here in forever, man, and none of these kids don't care about about things of God, and going there and preaching the gospel and seeing kids raise their hand for salvation, and I'm just like, wow, what in the world is going on here? And my testimony wasn't even good, but God just showed up on this thing and just, and blew it up, man. And then getting the community excited about it. And so really what it did for me, it helped me change my perspective. I started to see different. I feel like I trusted God enough to, I'm going to take a step in faith, God. I don't know how this thing's going to work out. I'm going to take a step in faith. But when I did, God met me right there and said, here you go. You brought these fish and loaves right here. Guess what? Let me do something with this thing. And I was there to see it happen, which changed my faith and my expectation from God. And so I came in to ministry thinking that, okay, God, I'll do you a favor. All right, I'll do it. And then you realize that, you know what? No, it wasn't God doing me a favor. God had planned to, it wasn't me doing God a favor. God had planned to this thing all along. I need to not only work on help these people, but I need to help you to see better. God opened my eyes. God opened my heart. God healed me through this whole process. Healed me through a lot of things that I still had things that I was still holding on to in my life that God helped to heal me from, that I didn't even know was there. I thought it was good. I thought I was a good Christian. But then God exposes those things, all right, and say, Kez, all right, I can get, you let me, I'll get that out of there for you.
Wow.
And so that's kind of been.
Well, let's Kez, that is, wow, is that rich? Yes. And appreciate you being so open and honest. Let's jump to our last segment of Legacy. We've taken a lot of your time, which we're very appreciative, and it's going to be very much a blessing to so many people. You've had lots of success as a player, coach in your career. As you sit here today, Kez, how would you, though, define success for our listeners?
I got a bunch of rings in a box that sit in my room that I never look at, never watch, never take out, right? And you look at the fruit, we always try to look at the fruit, but it's really in the relationship. Some of my favorite Bible verses and Bible stories is about the relationship that we have with Jesus, right? And I can now look at my life now and I can see the value in my life. A long time ago, I didn't see value because I was looking at the circumstances. And the circumstances they will never tell you or give a true depiction of what success looks like. It's really in the relationship. And so once you know that, guess what? You're always good. And then the Bible also says right here, it says, I'm trying to think of the Bible verse here, but it talks about God's already orchestrated our steps, right? The steps of a righteous man are ordered, right? My steps are ordered. God, I work for God. God's going to take care of me. God's going to put me in a position to not only be successful, but be successful in what He's called me to be, whatever that might be. And so I've had an opportunity to redefine what success looks like in my eyes. It's not winning a game, which I like winning games. I love winning games, but it's God's purpose in that whole process. I believe that God has people. It's not about the game. The game is a platform, but God has people that He wants to influence through His relationships. And I am a carrier of God's person and in the Holy Spirit to help people, to introduce people to Christ. So that's what I see. And then just the fruit of that is the life that God gives, not how much money you got or how many wins you got, but our relationship that we have with Christ. And so I think I talked too much and now my words.
Well said. Well said. Awesome.
With all your experiences, what wisdom do you have for the players, coaches of the next generation?
Well, I'll say this just for players and coaches right here. The biggest thing is to fall in love with the process, right? And my favorite Bible verse is Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom and His righteousness, and all the things be added to you. What that to me entails is there's a main thing, and there's repercussions from the main. That's fruit from the main thing. Focus on the main thing. If you're playing football, the main thing is not the end result. The end result only happens because you've got this first part start. You got joy in playing football. You enjoy it. You feel called to do it, right? The same thing with coaching, right? The success happens as a result of this relationship, right? And I remember one of the best lessons I got from Coach Bowden is Coach Bowden would talk about, how he never went on an interview. And when he said that first, when I first heard that, I thought to myself, Coach, that sounds so arrogant. But really what he was saying was, he was saying that he didn't go searching out green grass. He was busy making his own grass green. And when he did that, people would pull him to that place to help them make their grass green. And I would just say right here, be a green grass maker. Be a green grass maker. I want to be a green grass maker. I want to be so good at making grass green that wherever God wants to use me, guess what? I'm going to be ready for the opportunity when I get over here. If I get over here, guess what? I know how to make green grass. Why? Because I'm focused on making green grass. I'm not focused on getting to greener pastures. I'm focused on making green grass. And so I would say that to any coach, any player, and it flies in the face of what we deal with now with transfer portal and all this other stuff. Be a green grass maker, because that will be the main piece of it. And then if you're a Christian, guess what? The only way you can even produce green grass is through relationship, right? You got to be connected to the Father. If you're not connected to the vine, guess what? There's no way you can make any grass green. There's no way you can even produce anything that's even worth it. You can't produce it. You got to be connected. So that would be all that jumbled up stuff. That would be that would be what I would pass on to any coach or player.
Well said. So, Kez, when someone encounters Kez McCorvey, what would you want them to experience, and how do you want to be remembered?
Oh my goodness! Really, I would want someone to see, when they see me, they see Christ. That's truly my desire too. I think about the woman at the well, and I think about when Jesus told her, that if you would ask me, I would give you living water. I would give you living water. If she knew who it was in front of her, she would ask him and he would give her living water. And I would say the same thing for me, that I would have living water to pass on. But when they saw me, that they saw Jesus. They saw a reflection. It may not be as beautiful as the real Jesus, but it's a reflection. It's like the uglier version of but it's enough of Jesus in there so you can know it's him. And so that would be my hope, is when people saw me, they saw a reflection of the Holy One. And so that would be that. I think I forgot the second question.
No, I wanted how you want them to experience you and how you'd want to be remembered. Yeah. Well said. Well, Kez, this is our last segment. We call it Final Words. If there's something that you would like to share that we haven't asked, or something on your heart, and then Austin will share something and I'll wrap it up.
Okay. Well, I have this. I mean, this has probably been the thing that's been on my heart the most. Is our heart. When I think about, the Bible says, out of the heart flows the well springs of life, and I think about that. Just how God, the Bible tells us to protect our heart, because this thing right here, this heart right here, how we think, how we see ourselves, is the main piece of how we see reality. And I just think about how my heart's changed and how I see reality different. I think about myself as that young boy, that young 5-year-old boy that was having a hard time, that his grandmother said, boy, that boy always getting in devilment. And I think about myself now, of how I see it now. And the same person, a little bit younger, same person, but I see totally different. I see totally different. And that sight is based on my heart position. Right? When I see now, I see hope. I see God's blessing on my life. I see where I'm blessed. I see, even from a young age, I was blessed. I was taken care of. God was looking after me my whole life, right? And in the Bible, it says, it's right here, it says, through his divine power, God's already given us everything we need for life and godliness. I see God's provision in my life. Even before I have it, I see God taking care of me, Kez, you don't have to go out and not play with your left hand and try to make things happen right here. God's already given me the abilities to be able to go out and take care of my family, right? And so I don't have to stress about that. And so seeing for me is one of the seeing for me, and then my heart position is one of the best things. Being a child of God, knowing that I'm loved, knowing that I'm taken care of, knowing that God's already given me abilities and gifts and skills that not only to be able to help me, but to glorify Him and to help people around me. And I can see that now. When I was young, you can't see. When you're young, you can't see it. You can't see where God has put you strategically in a place. You look at your circumstances. You look at the circumstances of people around you. You measure yourself against other people. Man, this guy's played this many years, and I only played this many years. This guy's 6'7" and I'm 6 foot tall, right? But you don't understand that God has a purpose, a great, powerful purpose. If you just lean into that purpose, guess what? Great things will happen in your life. God has a plan for your life, and it's spectacular. And if you would just lean into that thing, God's going to do great things. It may not be what you expect, right? A lot of times I expect bad stuff, but then thank goodness, God gives me the good stuff that He desires me to have. And I'm not trying to say that everybody's going to get good stuff. We're going to all have bad situations happen in our life, right? But you can see the good out of bad situations. I've seen most of the best things that happen in my life happen after bad stuff. They happen after bad stuff. Bad stuff happened in my life, and then God uses those things to expose things in my heart that ultimately start the process of healing me, helping me see myself clear and see Him more clearer. All right, I've rambled along enough. Along enough.
Kez, I mean, it's been such a blessing just to sit here and listen, and we're doing a year-end podcast next week, and so what we started to do, because Dad's been going through all the podcasts trying to get quotes from all these different guys, and what he's seeing, it says a lot of work. So what we started doing is we're jotting down little spots throughout the podcast of what's really speaking to my heart, and I'm just looking at my thing. I got like 25 things listed here of what you've said, and it's just been a beautiful it's a beautiful story is what it is. I mean, things that I wrote it down and then underlined is one, your ability to see reality different. I think that is a great picture of coming into knowledge of God. And then as you understand the knowledge of God, you begin to see yourself more clearly. And, so what does that look like? You've been able to see that there's been an underlying storyline of value from the very beginning of where you struggled with understanding value, but then understanding as you know Papa better, you have great value to him. And I can just see, if the way you've described it today and just how he has pursued you in your heart and just even walking you through some difficult times in your career or in your occupations, just the love he has for you to pursue your heart and to help you see really the value you've always had. Because what he's doing in your life right now and still being able to do things that get you excited is a gift from him. And it's just, he just wants us in that spot where we're ready to see what he's doing and what he's about. And I think you've done an unbelievable job within this, just painting that picture and seeing his hand in it all. The other phrase that you got, which you hear the phrase, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but I've never heard the phrase, be a green grass maker. I've heard, be where your feet are planted, but, to think about, it's what you said. It's how you came to the gospel. You had a guy in your locker room in a season of life you were ready to see. He was just living his life. He was the gospel in that moment. You know what I mean?
Did not
And
know did not know I was looking at him at all. Was
no,
totally
no,
unaware of me. Just he was being with his dad. He was being with his father in the locker room, and I saw it.
you saw it. And that is just a picture. There's so much beauty in that. And it's relief for us because like you said, it's not me having to force something to do something. It's me being in that relationship, which is any relationship is messy, but it's the realness of that can change a life and a heart. And it started something in your heart that, you know, and to look at the fruits that are just pouring out of you is it's just a beautiful story. And the other thing that I underlined is your powerful story about your team at Florida State when you're getting your butts kicked by Florida, and just the power of encouragement and of hope. You know, he sees the mom point in the air. He has hope, which passes it to the next person who has hope. You pass by, you see hope, and you go convey it to someone else. And then and it's just a step of faith, just one step, one step, one step. And then it culminates as this big, beautiful win. But it's that beautiful hope that gets passed. And that's what we get to carry into all the world, is we get to carry this hope in bleak situations, this dark world. And it's just one step, one step, one step. And I believe we're going to see this unbelievable victory at the end of this thing, just like you did in that. So, you know, I just wanted to remind you, and I know God's shown this to you, but, you know, today you're valuable. I mean, what you've shared with me in my heart is of great value to me. So thank you, Kez.
Austin, you are super kind. I want to say this right here because you just stirred me and reminded me too. I remember that story, but I used to tell that story about, not quitting, but also about seeing what's not there. And some of those stories that I
Amen.
told you is, that victory was there, but I almost quit. The scholarship to go to Florida State, it was because every year we went to camp every year. The weight room was open every day. I had the opportunity to get rid of those distractions anytime. That stuff was already there, but for some reason I couldn't see it. I was distracted. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of times that's what we do too as well. We get so distracted that we don't see what God's already done.
Amen.
When I say that Bible verse, through his divine power of God, I think it's 2 Peter 1:3. When I say that Bible verse, I have to go back and decipher through it and understand that God's already given me everything I need for life and godliness. Past tense, it's already there. And so if I'm missing it, why am I missing it? Is it because of the promise is not true, or is it because I have distractions that are preventing me from seeing the promise? And all the time I got distractions, or I got
Absolutely.
false expectations. And so,
And that's the beautiful thing about God is he's willing to sift through those distractions with you so that you can see.
absolutely. And that's, oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's the thing too. It's just it is. God is so patient with us, right? How he walks us through those things, right? I mean, you can see that when he's sitting with the disciples and he's, patiently walking these guys through their lack of belief and faith and their wrong thinking. And the same thing with me too, is my whole life, right? He's been walking me through stage after stage after stage. You got this young, dumb kid, right? And he's still, let me pull you to this next level. Let me pull you to this next level. Let me pull you to this next level. And now I've lived long enough and I can see where he's been doing that. Man, you can look back in hindsight and see, man, look how far he's moved me. He moved me slowly enough to where it didn't break me, but then he moved me enough to where, I can now look back and see, my goodness, how I'm not there. I'm not where I want to be at, but my goodness, I've moved a great deal because of his hand and his patience, and his love for me.
And is that not what a great coach is?
Yes.
Is someone that is, can take on the wins and the losses as they come on you, but is patient enough to walk through the struggles of your team or the great things of your team and help them get to that other side. And I think obviously the greatest coach around is our Father.
Yes.
Mm.
He is magnificent. And the thing about it too is, I look back and I see the times where I have, I've sinned against him. I sin against God all the time, and I use his name. I've not trusted him, not believed him, but he's patient with me. He still takes those arrows, the hand that, it's hard to hold something and at the same time it bites you. But that's what God is. God is loving to where he has a bloody hand with my teeth marks in his hand, right? As he holds me up, as I bite him. That's how much he loves me. That's how much he loves us. To where as we are biting him, he is still with tears carrying us to the place they need to be. And so that's, to me, is just, it's really how we need to see it. We got to understand, what's going on here with how God loves us. I think people just don't have an awareness of what's going on. I mean, the cross is a perfect example of that. I know if it would have been me on the cross, I would have been like, God, get them all, kill all these rascals, lay them low, but him, he is, God forgive them because they know not what they do. He is still loving on folks as he is being murdered and stabbed and killed and hung on the cross. And so that's just a picture of who God is.
Amen. Amen.
Wow, what a great couple hours. There's a lot of things that have come to my heart. But first of all, I want to thank you, Kez, for your time, for your friendship. It's been a blessing to have you in my life for over now, I guess, the last 20 years, and to reconnect again. And I know we're going to continue to do that. When I heard you talk today, I get it why Jesus was a carpenter, because he's in the business of building beautiful, in our case, people. And I look at you and I thought of the word, Kez is a craftsman. You were a craftsman in the game of football as a receiver. You were a craftsman as a coach. And now you're the ultimate craftsman in what you're doing with walking alongside people and helping them rebuild their lives to the way Papa wants it. I also thought, Austin, of our friend Johnny Booty when he talked about revisioning and the importance of revisioning in our lives. And that's what I see, Kez. You have new vision, as you've already stated. I also thought about your journey of value, which all of us as athletes, if we're honest, have dealt with and are dealing with. And I thought of a statement that a dear friend of mine said many years ago in a critical part of my life. He said, Ken, the issue is we all were trying to get in a room that we're already in. And so my last statement, and Austin already said it, I want to say from my heart to yours, Kez. Kez McCorvey, you are valuable. And so, Austin, I would like to thank you for being a part of Awaken Kingdom Culture today and sharing your story with our listeners, one story at a time.